What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your very first time here, then it is just welcome to my channel and not welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, you don't know a good thing when you see it. And you ain't the only one. But to everyone else, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you are well. Yeah, I'm looking at my tattoo in like the mirror of my brother's name, Brandon. He wrote this. So for those of you who don't know, I have a brother that is, I believe, 20. Now, I don't know if he's 20 or 21, but I feel like I would have bought him a drink if he was 21, which leads me to believe he only 20. Brandon is on the spectrum. I actually named him. I gave him his first and middle name. Anyway, but like I was saying, Brandon is on the spectrum, y'all. Why he signed his name the other day and he writes the exact same. I told him how to write his name, and when he wrote it for the first time himself, I got it tattooed. He still write like this at 20. That's crazy. But I want to add to it. I want to add like a little autism puzzle piece or some little colors or something. I've been looking for ideas. I know I'm going to add to it. I don't know what. But anyway, this is not about me. And today is a very sad story, honestly. So I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get right into the details of these street thugs. We are discussing the tragic tale of Yannick and Quiana Pietrzak. So, Quiana Faye Jenkins is born February 16th, 1982, the only child. She grows up in the Ontario area of Southern California, and Quiana has a pretty typical upbringing. After high school graduation, she attends San Diego State University, where she obtains her master's in public health. And afterwards, she goes to work as a health education assistant for the county's Black Infant Care Program. Ultimately, she plans on becoming a doctor. Now, in 2005, Quiana attends this party that is being thrown for Marines who are being deployed to Iraq. And she attends this party with a friend of hers from school. And this friend introduces her to a Marine friend of hers by the name of Yannick Pietrzak. And he is affectionately referred to as just Jan, so I'm gonna refer to him as that going forward. Now, Jan was born over in Poland, March 13th of 1984. His family relocated to the United States when he was just 11 years old, and he grows up in Brooklyn, New York. The events that took place on 9/11, they have such a major impact on him that they changed the entire trajectory of Jan's future, inspiring him to become a Marine in 2003. He wanted to be patriotic and serve his new country. Jan is a helicopter mechanic. He also becomes a sergeant and does a tour of Iraq, all of which he's very proud of. But at this 2005 pre-deployment party that is being thrown for them, he meets Quiana and he cannot get her off of his mind. He and Quiana's mutual friend thought that they would be a good fit for one another. Jan is attracted to Quiana. Quiana is attracted to Jan, but that isn't the issue. She just wasn't initially interested in dating a Marine. But Jan has a little bit of charm to go with his looks, and so he is able to win Quiana over, and the two fall madly in love. 3 years into their relationship, on August 8th of 2008, Jan and Quiana officially tie the knot, and it was said that Quiana chose this date to help him remember their anniversary forever, because the date would be 8/8/2008, which I thought was real cute. Afterward, they make plans for their future together, when they'd like to have children, how many, you know, all of the things that you typically talk about when you are discussing forever with your partner. But unfortunately, their lives will not be unfolding at all how the two expected or hoped. On the morning of Wednesday, October 15th, 2008, just 2 months after their wedding, both Quiana and Jan are a no-call, no-show at their jobs, and it is not like either of them. Each of their jobs reach out to them to try to contact them, and they are unable to get a response. And so their respective co-workers both contact the local police to have them stop by the Pietrzak home to do a welfare check. When the officer arrives at their home, he finds the front door open and immediately calls for backup. One of the very first things that catches his attention when he enters the home is a purse that has been emptied of its contents, and there's also a very strong smell of gasoline inside the home. More officers arrive, and when they enter the living room of the house, they see the young couple lying bound, gagged, and lifeless on the floor. And it was very obvious that Jan had been beaten pretty badly. Quiana had been brutally essayed. Both of them had obviously been tortured mercilessly prior to being executed. Their home had been ransacked, doused with gasoline all over, and several fires had been started inside the home, presumably in an effort to burn it down and cover up the crime scene. Now, 3 different sets of footprints are found inside of the home from where the perpetrators had stepped in the gas that they poured and just tracked it all over the place. So this lets them know that there are at least 3 perpetrators. And one set of shoe prints is very obviously a Nike Air Force One. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it was black. There are also racial slurs spray painted all over the walls in the home, on the mirrors of the home. And with them being an interracial couple, police automatically think, okay, yeah, this is obviously a hate crime. So detectives get to work right away, questioning friends and family of the couple to see if there was anybody that they know who may have had it out for them, or anyone that they're aware of that did not like the idea of 2 different races being together. And while asking all of these questions down to the workplace, they find out that Jan in his workplace is somewhat strict with those that report to him. He was referred to as a hard charger. That was the term used to describe his leadership style. He was not his subordinates' favorite by a long shot. And Jan had also recently received a $30,000 bonus that many are aware of. The Naval Criminal Investigative Services are called in to assist with the investigation, and they noticed that while many of the couple's valuables had been stolen from their home, Jan's military bag, his sea bag, was still there. And they figured that the only somebody who would not take interest in such a sought after military bag would be military personnel themselves, because they'd already have their own. Now, maybe somebody can help me with this. Y'all know Mother does not know all of the things. I do know that the bags are waterproof and durable, but I didn't know that they were like so valuable that somebody would surely take in a robbery. They made it sound like it was a diamond ring left on the kitchen counter. Somebody help me with that. Is the bag, like, should I be trying to get me one? I need to know. Another reason that they believe that this was done by military personnel is because Quiana's ATM card had been used that night just a half a mile from the rear gate of the base. The surveillance footage is pulled from the ATM and they have an image of the suspect, but it is very grainy. All you can see is that the person is wearing a bandana covering their face, a blue bandana, and gloves that have mechanic writing on it. Now, one name that they hear more than once while questioning the co-workers is that of 20-year-old Lance Corporal Tyrone Miller, who reports to Jan. And he always made his disdain for Jan very known. And y'all, coincidentally and ghettoly, a few days after the attack of the Pietrzaks, Tyrone got shot one day prior to the Pietrzak's funeral. Now, he did survive the incident, so they brought a little Swiss cheese down to the station for questioning, and initially he denies having any knowledge or involvement in this incident involving the Pietrzaks. He said that he and Jan did disagree about minor work-related issues, but he insists that he doesn't have or never had any real animosity toward Jan, especially not enough to do something like this. And as for where he was that night, well, he says he was at home the entire evening. Now, when they ask him if his cell phone records will reflect that claim that he made, that he was just at the house and had not left, he changes his answer and suddenly recalls riding through their neighborhood with friends around that time. And when asked what he would typically wear to hang out with friends on such a night, he actually describes to them the bandana and Air Force Ones among some of the things that he would wear. And because they have Air Force One prints at the crime scene and the person in the ATM photo is wearing a bandana, with this they have enough probable cause to secure a search warrant of Tyrone's home. So they let him go. And they get their search warrant cleared and approved and greenlit, and they go down to his house later on that evening to execute the search. But when they get to his house, he and his wife refuse to open the door. So the police got to kick it in. They forcefully enter the house, guns drawn. Tyrone picks up his toddler daughter and holds her up as a shield. They're ordering him to put the child down. His wife is standing there looking all kinds of crazy and she is upset. He does eventually lower the child and they get the family seated and calm on the couch while they conduct their search. And they find several souvenirs that Tyrone had kept. They find first Quiana's ATM card just lying right on top of a table in plain view. They also find jewelry that belonged to the couple, 4 spent shell casings that match the same type of weapon used, and hanging inside of Tyrone Miller's closet is Jan's dressed blue uniform. Just sick. Now, in addition to the weapon actually used in the crime, they find other weapons inside the home, a bag of blue bandanas, and the gloves with the writing that they had seen in the ATM photos. There were also very obviously stolen items that belonged to other people unrelated to the Pietrzak case inside of Tyrone's home, IDs, cards belonging to other people. So at this point, Tyrone Miller is taken into custody and he is interrogated extensively. And despite all of this evidence against him, he denies culpability, says that he had nothing to do with what happened to the Pieczaks. And after an hour or so, he begins to crack, but they still don't get the full truth from him. He says that on that night, he had gone there with the intention of robbing the couple, and he gives the names of 2 other individuals that had gone there with him that night. 18-year-old Lance Corporal Emerist John, who also worked under Jan, and 20-year-old Private Kevin Cox, who did not work directly with Jan but did work in their squadron. And by the time they wrap up his interview, he has a 4th name that he drops on them, a young man that he first only refers to as Psycho. And later on, Psycho is identified as 20-year-old Keyshawn Sykes. These other 3 men are all rounded up and brought down to the station for questioning. And they all admit to being there that night, but they're all pointing the finger at each other when it comes to who actually pulled the trigger, who assaulted Quiana. So the problem then becomes determining who is telling the truth, or what the truth is, because obviously none of them are telling the whole truth. Each of them are pointing the finger and minimizing their own involvement. Now, between each of their statements they collect from the men's family and friends that they have been running their mouths to, paired with the collected evidence at the crime scene, investigators are able to piece together the horrific events that took place that night. In the wee hours of the morning on October 15th, the 4 men approached the Pietrzak's home with the intention of breaking in. Their faces are covered with bandanas. They have the gloves on their hands. They're trying their best to break in to the home, but when they are unsuccessful in doing so, they decide to try a different approach. They figured that Jan would likely open the door for somebody he recognized, and so they have Kevin Cox remove his bandana and just go to the front door while the rest of them stand out of view. Jan opens the door holding a knife because, mind you, it's the middle of the night. But at that point, the 3 other men come out and rush him at gunpoint. They struggle and exchange words with Jan for a few moments, ultimately overpowering him and getting he and his wife Quiana bound and gagged. At this point, they are scouring the home for valuables. This is a photo of the couple's bedroom. They pulled out all the drawers looking for things. They're just looking any and everywhere for money, jewelry, whatever they can find. But they don't find as much as they'd expected because, mind you, they're thinking about the $30,000 in cash that they know Jan has gotten as a bonus. So they take Quiana's ATM card and they ask for the PIN, which she gives to them, likely hoping that they would just leave once they had access to the money. But unfortunately, that is not the case. They then proceed to torture them both until Tyrone orders Emerist to execute them. And afterward, in an effort to misdirect police and throw them off in the investigation, they write the slurs all over the walls and mirrors, and they attempt to cover their tracks and get rid of like DNA evidence by burning the place down, but they could not get the gasoline to light. And after failing to get the fires to spread throughout the house, they just leave. Afterward, Tyrone Miller and Kevin Cox praised Emerus, telling him, "Good job, E. You earned your stripes tonight." Kevin also praises him and tells him that he grew up tonight, and Emerus responds to him, "Yeah, I did, man. Yeah, I did." Now, they did expect to get a lot of money out of the couple, but their biggest motive was revenge. Tyrone Miller alleges that Jan had attempted to block a promotion that he was up for, but there's no evidence suggesting that it actually happened. And others that work with them believe that Tyrone just didn't like how Jan was on the job, and that was his issue. Now, remind you that I said Tyrone had been shot. Well, apparently this group of Marines were out just committing robberies and all kinds of crimes, child. They regularly commit home invasions, which is how Tyrone had all of this stuff that didn't belong to him in his house. Well, they were on to the next when one of them accidentally shot Tyrone during it. Just idiots. Now, law enforcement, because initially when it hit the news cycle, it was about this crime being, racially motivated. So they come back and provide an update that it was not. But some of the detectives, as well as the victims' friends and families, disagree because they believe that these 4 men took issue with Jan having a black wife, and that will fall under the racial bias umbrella. And looking at the men's social media pages, Emerus had posted to his MySpace page just before they had arrived at the Pietrzak's house, quote, "chilling, waiting for the killing," which proves that the crime was premeditated. And I feel like the premeditation is quite obvious because in what world do you show up at your boss's house to just rob them alone? And what, you expect to just show up at work the next day? Like, y'all Marines, baby. It ain't like you could have just never went back to the job. Like, I'm confused as to how. Child, anyway, the 4 guys spend 5 long years in jail waiting for their trial date to start. And in March of 2013, 3 of the 4, Tyrone Miller, Emerus John, and Kevin Cox, they all go to trial. Tyrone Miller and Emerus John, they're tried together, and Kevin Cox, he has his own jury. By now, all 4 men have long been dishonorably discharged by the military, and all of them are facing the death penalty. The prosecution describes the 4 men as 4 trained killers who used their training to exact revenge on a fellow Marine instead of protecting the country as they had taken an oath to do. Their trial lasts for about 4 months, and the jury deliberates for 3 whole days before returning a verdict. Each of them guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. Tyrone Miller is additionally convicted of SA. He and Emerus John are sentenced to death without question. Get them out of here. Now, Kevin Cox's lawyer advocated for him to receive a lesser punishment because he had not actually pulled the trigger, nor had he acted in the essay. He said that his client was not a major participant, which the jury disagreed with. His lawyer also paints him out to be this flunky who was basically following the orders of 3 armed Marines, 2 of whom outranked him and told him that he simply just needed to knock at the door. And ultimately, Kevin Cox's lawyer is successful in evading the death penalty for his client. Kevin Cox is sentenced to 2 life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. And I didn't quite like what he had to say after that. Upon learning his sentence, he says, quote, "I apologize for what happened to the victim's family. I didn't say I'm sorry I did anything because I still don't feel that I did anything to be here for it." And he expresses his plans to appeal his conviction. Like, sir, shut up. Meanwhile, due to limited court space, Keyshawn Sykes is still rotting in jail, waiting on his turn to go to trial. But hearing the outcome of the other 3 guys' trial, I'm sure he had to know that he was up Schitt's Creek without a paddle and a leak in the boat. Okay, his trial starts a whole year after their trial started, and he too is convicted and receives the same fate as his co-conspirators. Just like Tyrone, he is additionally convicted of SA, and he gets a 3rd charge of penetration with a foreign object because he had also used a vibrator and a candle. Like, bring back burning them at the stake. When did we stop that? Whatever happened to just doing that? Tyrone Miller, Emerus John, Keyshawn Sykes are all currently on death row in California's San Quentin State Prison. But in 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom puts a temporary ban on executions. And so they're just still sitting in prison without an expiration date in sight. And I don't like that. As long as that ban remains in place, their lives and all the other lives of the people in California that are on death row are being spared. And I don't like that because I feel like, at least I've learned from watching Orange is the New Black and shows like that, like after a while, like you might get there in prison in the beginning and it's a hard thing, but after a while I feel like they all like adapt to the environment. And I feel like they don't deserve that comfort of like having adapted to the prison life and is just there doing the time. Like, no, let's get them out of here. Vaughn and Quiana were laid to rest on October 24th of 2008, 9 days after their tragic end, and their families decided, because they had vowed to spend the rest of their lives together, lives that they were robbed of, they'd lay them to rest together so they could have a chance at eternity. A full military-style funeral ceremony was held for them, including a full 21-gun salute, and they rest in Riverside National Cemetery. Sadly, Jan's mother said that she had prepared herself for the possibility of losing her son in combat, but like this in his own home was just inconceivable. And Quiana's mother said that she goes to the cemetery every single week and does not plan to miss a week because that's where she has to go to see her children. She also said that prior to this happening, she didn't even believe in the death penalty, but after having to hear over and over what was done to her children, because she does refer to Jan as her child as well, she believes in it now, and she says that she will be there when it happens to them, and hopefully she will get to see the day. Because Gavin, you playing. Hell, I want to go too. Can I come? Can you come pick me up, Miss Girl? I will get us an Uber Black. I want to go too. Both families really did seem to like love and accept them both as families, so condolences to them. This was truly horrific, and yeah, let me know your thoughts down below on this horrible case. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. Like the video before you leave, it does help the channel. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your valuable time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Today we will be today I can't talk, I guess. And becomes a sergeant, all of which he's very proud of. Girl, what was I even trying to say? Now, maybe somebody can help me with this. Y'all know mother does not. Surveillance. The surveillance footage is pulled from the ATM. Lance Corporal Kevin Sykes. Keisha, girl, I didn't call this man Kevin. And ultimately, Kevin Cox's, is that his name? Yeah. Ultimately, Kevin Cox, okay, including a full 21 flag salute. Girl, 21 guns. What am I talking about, flags? And when I said it, I'm like, flags from, like, what kind of flags?